it's really strange for me to think about, like, my daughters have never grown up in a world where, like, cell phones and everything, okay? And I feel like my generation has transitioned into the technology world, all right? But I look at my parents and, like, my grandparents, when they, you know, like the fact that how proud they are of themselves when they send an email, right? So, yeah, you know? So there are things that you guys have never experienced, and one of them is looking at a table for values. So when you used to do trigonometry, when you do, you know, you guys are so sine of 30 degrees and you can get your decimal. Tangent of 45 degrees and you get your decimal. Even when I was in school, like I told you guys, the calculator, the graphing calculator was just starting. People, you know, you could afford it. It was just $100, $150, whatever. But otherwise, we had to use tables. So when we went to do the sine of 30 degrees, or the sine of 28 degrees, or the sine of 27, I had to go to the back of my book, flip to the sine tables. Then I'd have to look in there for the correct, you know, angle that I wanted, and then I have to come down here and do how many decimal. I mean, it sucked. So what this problem is, back in the day, if anybody has anybody in real estate in your family or anything, they have special calculators now. They can just type stuff in and do it. But this problem was people would generate a book of tables for real estate agents, for the loan brokers. And so when you would go meet with them, they'd say, okay, I'll approximate, you're going to buy a $150,000 home. Right now, interest rates are about 8%. And they'd flip to the book where the 8% tables are, and they'd say, okay, at $150,000 at 8%, they'd go down and they'd tell you, okay, your payment's going to be, you know, $800-900 a month, $1,200 a month. And then that's all they could do is estimate it. So this formula is going to help us do that. That's the only reason they're using this formula, is to help generate these tables in these books. Nowadays, Google anything and you can get a little calculator on the online or whatever. So this will approximate as long as your X is greater than 0. And in this case, X is the monthly payment in dollars. And we're doing a $150,000 home at 8%. And our payment is $1,300, so it's going to work. So T equals 12.542. The ln of, when you go to your calculators, you're going to do 1,300 divided by, most of you probably can do that number in your head, but if you don't, put it in parentheses. 1,300 minus 1,000. Okay? So type in your calculator, 12.542, hit the ln button. I would just type in, now it gives you the parentheses, I would just type in 1,300 divided by 300, and what are we getting? 18.39, whatever. I'm going to just call it 18.4. So the idea is, if you would buy this home, and what they're telling you is, if you're going to spend about $1,300 a month on the mortgage, you will pay off the loan in about 18.4 years. Now this is why parents typically look at you and say, as long as you're under my roof, you'll follow my rules. They spend a lot of money to put a roof over your head. It's expensive. So 18.4 years, how many payments have they sent in? How many? What's 18.4 times 12? What? 220.86. Let's just call it 221. So they sent in about 221 payments of $1,300. How much is that? What? How much?
287,040.
287,000, 40, something like that.
300.
What?
It's
Oh, I did about 28.
287, 300.
You're round the number up.
Okay. But the point was they borrowed 150,000 from the bank, right? So once you've paid that back, you paid back $150,000. What's left over? 1, 3, 7. That's just interest, folks. So that's why they say you live under my roof, you're gonna follow my rules. That kind of stuff happens because they're spending a significant amount of money. That's your number one investment in life, probably. If you own a home or something, it's huge. So this is a $150,000 home that they paid off. A lot of people have a 30-year mortgage. So stretch it out for 30 years. You're going to pay a lot more interest on it. I think Minnesota one time that was the median home price, so that was the middle home. We have significantly more, way above that. And think about how much they're spending in interest. So, I do want to show you one thing that can help you do this. Apps. There's an apps button here. Now, some of you guys, depending on which one you have, I'm looking for the finance calculator, or more importantly, I'm looking for this TVM solver. So some of you have to hit second something to get into that, to an apps area or finance or the TVM solver. So find it quickly. So let's look at the same problem that we just looked at. Here's how it would look. Let's see. It was 8%, right? The present value of the money, we grabbed 150,000 from the bank. I want. We spent $1,300 a month. Now, when you look at PV, which is the present value of the loan versus payments and future value, these things, the present value of the payment, one is always positive, one's always negative. Now, if you think of present value, borrowing money from the bank, some of you might put a negative in here, and then you'd make this positive. They always have to have different signs. Yep.
What's the N?
We'll go back to that in just a second. I always want my, in this case, I borrowed $150,000 from the bank, so I want it to go to zero. I want to owe the bank zero. Payments per year, compoundings per year. Banks, when you take out a loan, generally calculate interest against you once per month. So if I go back up to the top, now what I was explaining to you is in this problem, it's a table of values. Back in the day, somebody had to go through a book. Now, even on your calculators, we're going to hit alpha, enter. And it told me the 220.68. So it told me how many months it's going to take you to pay off the loan at that point. Okay?
I'm getting it there.
Okay, so make sure you have 8%, 150,000, negative 1,300, 0. So here's what I was telling you earlier with these calculators. Let's say I want, your first loan, depending on what you do, you guys might take out a 30-year mortgage. That's typically what people do. So that's 360 months. We're going to leave all the information the same, except I'm going to come down here to the payment. Now hit alpha enter on the payment, and notice it's negative 1,100. So if I take that negative 1,100, so $1,100 times 360 payments, that's how much I sent into the bank. Now I subtract the 150. That's how much interest somebody spent. So what did we spend on the other one? We spent about $137,000 on interest. Now this person's spending $246,000, $110,000 more dollars. So you see what's happening when you guys go to buy a house, you know, and somebody goes, hey, you can save $200 a month on your mortgage payment. Yes, I would love to do that, right? Great. Okay, well, we'll set you up for a 30-year loan. Great. So you do that, and all of a sudden you spent $246,000. Your neighbor bought a similar house. Everything's the same except they spent an extra $200 a month. They owned their home in 18 years, and they paid $100,000 less interest in you. Those little things make a huge difference. Not to mention taxes on your house, insurance on your house. So taxes in Minnetonka run anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 a year, plus insurance is probably anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000. So you can add $500, $600, $700 to the mortgage. Significant cost. Okay.